fingerprints or by distinguishing marks like tattoos. Teenager Jim Fuller recognized the body of one of his friends by a brand new wristwatch.
He showed me a new watch he was so proud of, and bless his heart, he didn't last a day. But that's the way I identified him. I knew that watch.
By now, the rest of the nation was following news of the tragedy.
Texas City lies broken and crushed under the terrible impact of the mighty concussions which piled up crumpled autos and made a shambles of freight trains and railroad yards. Her industry burned out, her homes and business centers shattered. Texas City survivors paused to mourn their dead.
On Saturday, April 19th, about 1,500 dazed and grieving people attended a service at the high school football stadium, while fires still burned in the distance. It wasn't until April 22nd, 6 days after the first explosion, that all of the fires were out. The last body was recovered on May 11th, 25 days after the explosion. The official death toll was now 568. But since many bodies were incomplete and could not be identified, the actual number will never be known. Survivors wanted to understand what had gone so horribly wrong. A Coast Guard investigation into the causes of the disaster concluded that the original fire was probably caused by a careless cigarette smoker. The fatal error came when the captain of the Grand Comte decided to protect his cargo from water damage and not put the fire out with a hose. The quick growth of Texas City's waterfront during the war may have added to the scope of the disaster.
You had pretty close proximity, say 1,000 feet in some cases only, between the docks, the petrochemical facilities, and at least some of the town. And when something powerful blows up, then there's going to be trouble.
Texas City had suffered the worst industrial disaster in the history of the United States. But its residents were determined to rebuild.
We just went on with our lives. We didn't know anything else. You go on.
Mary Hunter's arm that had been riddled with glass was saved, but she still lives with the memory of that day.
I still have glass. In fact, there's a piece in my head that I was having bad headaches years ago, and they took x-rays, and this glass showed up.
Shortly after the disaster, Monsanto Chemical Company announced that it would build a bigger and better plant on the site of the demolished one.
It was just as if everybody had had a shot in the arm, because they felt like they had something to cling to, that there would be a town, there would be at least one plant that they knew of.
Through hard work, the town began to re-emerge.
New homes, new industries, new businesses, new equipment for the city's protection. A new tomorrow which Texas City faces with confidence.
In 1997, 50 years after the explosions, Texas City residents held a celebration of rebirth. They still take pride in the way their town recovered from its tragedy. They have chosen the phoenix as the symbol for a town that has rebuilt itself from ashes. individual battles still remain.
My face was split open. Everything was gouged out of my head and laying on my cheek. My eyelid was cut in 4 ways. And that glass had cut clean through here and was lodged. It was 2.5 inches long, 1 inch wide, 1/4 of an inch thick, and lodged at the base of the brain. And when they took me to surgery, they didn't know that was in there.
It took the efforts of 4 doctors to remove the glass. They called Joyce their miracle case.
You want to push it away. But actually, every day you look in the mirror, it's there.
Monsanto employee William Lane went back to work at the rebuilt plant and stayed there until his retirement.
With big thunderclaps for about 2 years, I'd nearly dive under a desk or something. You'd think, here it goes again. You just freeze and want to dive under something.
Their shared tragedy has brought the residents of Texas City a strong sense of community that, for the survivors, is equally intense more than half a century later.
We seem to be survivors.
I love Texas City, and I'm going to try to be here the rest of my life.
Town is better than it's ever been. It's cleaner than it's ever been. It's safer than it's ever been. We're just real proud of it.
Texas City has learned from its tragic past and become a model of industrial safety. Whether the chemical industry as a whole has learned the same lesson is not as certain.
One wonders whether we've really thought out very carefully the interactions among systems that produce chemicals and their interaction with population areas. We're getting better at it, but there may be still potential for another Texas City.